This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
Police in Las Vegas found themselves in the middle of a UFO mystery last month after an...
Big eyes, they have big eyes.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal? Or...
Yeah, one of my partners said they saw something fall out of the statue, so that's why I'm kind of curious.
What sign? I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Okay, hang on.
He's right.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, he's good. He's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
Mythical Legends Podcast with your host Daniel Barnett.
And welcome back to the Mythical Legends Podcast. We are so glad to be back for this one. But first, I will announce our first co-host. Hi, Nan. How you doing?
Hey. Hiya. You all right?
How you doing?
Good. Yeah, good. Eager for tonight's podcast.
Yes, I've got a feeling that it will be funny, and there won't be an ounce of seriousness in this podcast. I don't think.
Well, I'll have to
I can just get a vibe.
Keep everybody under control. Again.
Yeah, I think you are going to have to be the one to keep our guests grounded. I think, like you do with me out in the forest, you might have to kind of push people's shoulders down.
I think you might be right.
But first, before I bring our guests on, we've had a pretty busy week, haven't we?
Yes.
We've been announcing stuff for the conference, haven't we?
Yeah, very busy.
Yeah, it's been a very kind of busy time for Facebook and the Crypto Conference group, guys. We have many announcements that have come out, and actually, before I go any further, we may have one or two guests that are going to be on this podcast today. So before I bring on our guests, I have a special announcement to make to you guys. Usually we just have me and Nan and it's fun, but tonight we have an added co-host that has done many podcasts with me. He's a very teddy bear like man. I will bring him on. He's now sticking his middle fingers up at me on his screen. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Chris Alsford.
It's my thumbs, Daniel. It's my thumbs.
Yeah, your middle fingers.
Camera was small then, wasn't it? All right, how are you?
I've never thought of you as a teddy bear, Chris.
Not many people have. No.
How's things, buddy?
Not bad. Super moon out tonight. I don't know why I'm pointing at my ceiling. Super moon outside.
It's outside, isn't it?
Fantastic. Yeah.
So we have a pretty excellent podcast lined up for everyone today, don't we?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I think I was right about this podcast not being serious because of these guys coming on. I've got a feeling that these two guys know each other very, very well, and they have done for a long time.
Yes, I think, quite possibly you're somewhere near the mark there,
So, I will bring our first guest on. Now, this guest that I'm going to bring on will be at the conference next year, May 31st. Am I right in saying that now?
Absolutely, yeah.
There you go. And he will be hosting the Friday night VIP event to anyone who's coming to the conference. The VIP event will be the one for you to come to meet these wonderful guests. But I will bring this guest on and we will have some fun, and then we'll bring our second guest on and have even more fun. So I now proudly present to the stage, and I gotta say I keep saying his name wrong, so let's hope that I get his name right this time. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Brett Eichenberger.
Hey, I'm here.
Hey.
There you go.
Thanks for having me, but I do have an issue, Daniel. You said the next guest will be more fun. Am I not fun enough?
No, Oh, see. How are you, buddy?
Started already, hasn't it? Yeah.
I'm just giving you grief, buddy.
Which is
pleased to
what I
be here.
said at the very beginning.
Yeah, I am very pleased to be here, and I'm very pleased and excited to be coming over to the wonderful UK to attend the conference. May 31st can't come soon enough. I can't wait. I literally can't wait. I love it there. I've been there a number of times. I would live there if I could. And my great grandparents are from there, so it's in my blood. I can't wait to come back.
Ah,
Cool.
whereabouts? Which part of the UK were they from?
They were from, oh my gosh, down sort of near Hastings, I believe.
All right, yeah.
Southern UK. Yeah. My great grandfather was a famous general for the Brits.
Ooh.
That's all I know. Yeah.
Ooh.
So
Wow.
good history.
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, I just saw Chris's face kind of light up there.
We'll have a look.
So I have the great job of kicking off this podcast. Let's get our other guests just to wait for a while because let's have fun with you first. So my first question for you, Brett. Now, I know that you do a lot of work inside the Bigfoot world. I also know that you do a lot kind of outside the Bigfoot world as well. So could you tell us about how you got into the film industry and production?
Yeah, so it's kind of a long story that I'll keep short, but my interest in film started when I was just a little kid, like 6, 7 years old, when I saw E.T. in the movie theaters, just to show how old I am. And I immediately spoke to me. It scared me. At the same time, melted my heart like it did every other person that saw that movie. And I knew then, as that little kid, I asked my dad, I said, who is the guy behind the camera? What do they do? How do they make these movies? And I knew that I wanted to be just like Steven Spielberg. And he's been a hero of mine ever since. And I think he's the greatest visual storyteller in history. And the box office numbers would back me up on that. But I've learned a lot from him. And that's how and why I got into the movies. And I was fortunate enough that my father kind of did like some TV stuff, more like sales shows and whatnot. So he had equipment. And so I had it at my disposal, and I would go and I would make little movies with my friends. And that's how I learned how to edit and make movies and whatnot. And so that developed into short films, which developed into feature films. And I've just known my entire life that I've wanted to tell good stories. And it doesn't matter whether they're scripted and written or if they're documentaries. And I think that UFOs and Bigfoot and the mysteries of the universe are the best stories ever. And so growing up in Oregon and knowing about and hearing about Bigfoot my entire life, because I think we're like 4 or 5 on the list of states for the most sightings, it's just something I've always been interested in. And when the pandemic came, my day job, if you will, is doing like commercials and other things for big companies that you guys may have heard of. But when the pandemic came and I ran out of work, Jill, who's a producer and a screenwriter, and I, and some other folks, Mike Ferry, our cinematographer, we got together. We said, hey, let's do that documentary about Bigfoot we've been talking about. And we just, through another long story, we happen to know a lot of folks in the business like Peter Byrne and Todd Neese and Ron Moorhead. And so we approached them and said, hey, would you be in our documentary? And they already knew us as filmmakers. And so we laid the groundwork 6, 7 years prior, and we started doing our interviews, and it's turned into a flash of beauty, and we just can't stop. The stories are too good, and we hear a new one every single day that's just as good as the other ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I can definitely relate to that first bit. Now, we're gonna go off a rabbit hole now. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
My dad is probably one of his main stars is Steven Spielberg. Now, something that me and Dad used to do and still do to this day is go around to conventions and collect autographs. And I can remember when we were at one convention and one of our mates, he collects autographs and he sells them. And he had one of Steven Spielberg. I've never seen Dad just stand there and just you couldn't even wave your hand in front of him.
Yeah.
So we bought that autograph, and then he finds a piece of the Jaws boat.
Whoa.
And yeah, so when you come over, Brett, we'll probably have a good chat, because we now have a piece of the Jaws boat. We have, and even now I can say this, that we love Spielberg. And I believe we may have some stuff from ET and kind of all sorts of So we will. I know that's one of our great passions. Nan, do you want to continue and speak on my behalf now?
Well, no, I mean, Dad is a massive fan, and he's into collecting things authentic, whatever it is. He's just got this knack of finding it out. And like Daniel, he will email somebody or saying, "May I have this? Can you put me in touch with someone?" He'll pursue it. So that's Daniel's traits, only magnified 100 times, because once, as you know, once he's got your number, he uses it a lot.
And I think we also have a piece of. Have you watched Jaws?
No, never seen it, Daniel. Just kidding.
Jaws what? Yeah, Jaws what?
I just bought a Jaws limited edition poster an hour ago that nobody's ever seen. So yeah, I've seen it.
So we do you know when Quint gets eaten? Yeah.
Yep. Oh,
so that blood, we have a small drop of that blood.
Wow. No kidding. Your dad and I are gonna have so much to talk about.
There you go.
I have there's what's called a plate, and they use it for visual effects work, right? So what they do is they put it in front of the camera. This is back in the 70s. They don't do this anymore. But they put it in the camera, and then they'd film a scene, and it would be painted background. And I recently purchased that visual effects plate for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And so it's the actual one that was actually used in the movie. And Close Encounters of the Third Kind is something that your next guest can talk about as well, because it's a huge commonality between us because of the story of Roy Neary, who becomes obsessed with these UFOs and these aliens. And it really mirrors a lot of the folks that we encounter in the realm of Bigfoot. But before I digress too much, I've got to tell you, you can't see it in this, but just behind me over here is a Back to the Future poster signed by Steven Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis, Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Crispin Glover, and Leah Thompson. And that's my prized possession.
Okay, all right. And this is where me, you and Dad will get along so much, all right?
Yeah.
We are friends with Leah Thompson.
Really?
I've met Christopher Lloyd 3 times. I've had several hugs with him. Dad has met Michael J. Fox. He has every autograph there is on a kind of a DeLorean that is kind of the film frames. Oh my God, we will get along. We will get along.
Back to the Future is a perfect movie, and I'll just end it at that.
He will.
Yeah,
you just be Dad's face, just pop in.
Okay, all right. This is too cool.
Yeah.
This is just
so we me and you will have our own discussions. So bringing it right back to the topic that we're here to discuss. Is so what got you interested into Bigfoot, right?
Just the mystery of it. It's so funny because I remember I was probably, 7 or 8 years old, and we had this this book. I don't even know where my parents got it, but it was like an encyclopedia. It was a thick book. And I think it was called like Mysteries of the Unknown or Mysteries of the Universe. And I just liked flipping through it. I don't know where this curiosity came from, but I've never not had it. And I remember flipping through the book, and I remember looking at the famous frame 352 of the Patterson-Gimlin film, and just looking at this figure and just I'd stare at it for minutes. Felt like hours maybe, of this creature, of this Bigfoot turning around and looking back towards the camera and looking back towards the men. And it just entranced me. It just fascinated me so much. And I've been kind of bewitched ever since, and entranced with this notion that there's this tall, hairy hominoid or hominoids that are living in the forest around us, And so, Oregon, what's great about living in Oregon in the Pacific Northwest, as you guys know, being up here, Oregon, Washington are very similar. But you have just these never-ending forests and wilderness, and you can look through them only so far, until it starts getting dark and eerie and mysterious. And so your mind immediately starts creating visuals of what could be back there. Dogman, Bigfoot, fairies, serial killers, aliens. I mean, anything and everything is fair game up here. I mean, the mysteries don't stop at Bigfoot. It just happens to be what we're concentrating on. But it gets kind of terrifying, I'm to the point now where I don't know that I really want to go out in the woods for extended periods of time by myself. Even though I don't think Bigfoot's going to hurt me, it's the other stuff that I'm really worried about.
And I'm gonna say, and Brett, this is something that you really need to know, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Always go with someone that you can run faster, all right?
Yes,
so then
I've
you
heard
run
this.
faster than them, and that's why I go out with Dan, because I can run faster. So it's perfect.
This is true. This is true.
See, my wife.
Apparently, I'm expendable.
Well, my wife Jill, who's the producer of Flash of Beauty, she's the faster one. I'm the slower one. So she's getting away. But I'm gonna take one for her because I love her. She's my wife. So I'm gonna be the slow one, and I'll fight off for a few seconds.
Maybe Nan and Chris, I think we're making friends with the wrong person here.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with Brett. Exactly. Yeah, your wife is the most important. I love her very much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, right. Now, I'm going to have to kind of stop your question for a minute because I reckon we've been rude enough now to just we've given our other guest time to think about what he's done. So I think we now need to bring our other guest on.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brett, I'm going to prepare you for this advert, all right? Because this advert is weird. Everyone who watches the Mythical Legends podcast, everyone in the chat, you've seen this ad before, and it is weird, and we laugh. So, and then after the break, our surprised guest will be on. Ready?
For half an hour on Saturday afternoons and for a quarter of an hour on Wednesday evenings, the world's only show about hard science, weird shit, and surreality. And it's co-presented by an anthropomorphic chicken. Be there or be square.
That was the greatest ad I've ever seen.
And please welcome to the stage, Mr. Tobe Johnson. Hey, bud.
Hello.
How are you, buddy?
With all this Jaws talk, I thought it was poignant at the same time I was eating Swedish fish, which isn't exactly a shark, but I thought it was appropriate.
Tobe, you're missing a leg because of a shark attack, though, aren't you? Kidding. I'm kidding. He's not.
So, Brett and Tobe, how did you find that advert?
We have to have an opinion about this, huh?
Yeah.
Brett, go ahead.
My first question, Daniel, is can I get that guy's autograph when I come over?
That guy will be at the event.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect, because that was amazing.
He is completely mad, but he's the most lovable, lovely. He's a really good friend of ours. Has helped us so much.
I love it. I love it.
He's amazing.
What the like old modern English kind of that person speaking kind of like bloody hell and that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
That's what John does. John is that kind of So yes.
Perfect.
Tobe, what about you, my friend?
It's good to see you there, Daniel. Thanks for let me spy on you guys from the back room here. I was chomping at the bit, of course, when you guys were talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because really that's the show, right? Like that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's the masterpiece Bigfoot movie that's not a Bigfoot movie. It happens to be, I think, Spielberg's best work, but it also tells the story of this obsessive nature of why we're all here today, right? Because this is something that shouldn't grab your attention the way it does if we're just talking about a monkey. And we don't think you're talking about a monkey here. Something else is going on, something other.
Yeah, and I think that's why kind of Spielberg does have that kind of brilliant mentality for his films, if I'm going to say, and has that kind of amazing inspiration behind his films. I think possibly the film E.T. or Close Encounters, some stuff like that has pushed people off to be in this world, I think, and that's what maybe Spielberg had in mind, possibly. I know that kind of he wanted something that no one else had, but I can say that E.T. is probably one of my favorite films. I think it's brilliant. Yeah. So right, I'm going to kick it off with Nan. So Nan, do you want to go and ask your first question to these gentlemen?
Yes. So we were like, when you're out and about doing things, I mean, have either of you actually had an encounter or thought you might have some kind of sighting, hearing, feeling that you've seen something when you've been out?
Well, I'll go first. So I've been chasing this phenomena since around 2005, and around 2018, I finally had something break loose as far as activity that involves Bigfoot, to the point where I had a partial sighting of something walking behind my Jeep from about 30 feet away or so. And nothing definitive to the point where I could, sketch anything other than a giant white foot. Oddly enough, it was a hairy white foot behind my Jeep. So I guess if you're going to see something, you might as well see a Bigfoot, but it was white, and that didn't make a whole lot of sense. But the variety of the phenomena, I mean, just yesterday we dropped an episode where two witnesses, Harold and Cody, see something that is bright orange, and they describe it as almost orangutan-like. Actually, they describe it as an elk on two legs, and then it turned into them as they got closer to it, an orange orangutan, and eventually something even more extraordinary. I'll push people over to the YouTube channel to watch the rest of this. But the way they describe, and I'll let Brett talk about this too more, is they describe the hair on the Sasquatch as being something not just fully physical. There was something extraordinary about the coloration of it. And so I think something else is going on with the phenomena besides the variety of like a Gigantopithecus or something caught between the fossil records. Something very unique here, extraordinary and paranormal.
Wow.
Right.
Let's see here. Where do I start? So to answer your question, first and foremost, Daniel, so Mike and Jill and I have seen the eye glow, and we observed the eye glow on a reservation in the state of Nebraska. And, I'm talking about it because I feel like we thoroughly ran out of any sort of way to debunk it. And so I feel like we witnessed it, and I snapped a photo of it, and I can see, I only got one eye. I think the other eye must have been behind a branch or something like that, but I can certainly see the shape of an eye. It's closing like this, and you can kind of make out, almost an iris. And so we observed those on 2 occasions in 2 different locations, the same night, and we watched them slowly turn color. And it was fascinating. And I've got to admit that when you see something like that, your brain tries to rationalize it. We're logical beings. We try to assess whether we're the prey or the predator. And so, it took 20 to 30 minutes until I ran out of explanations. And we have an advantage as filmmakers because as filmmakers, we try and figure out how to fool audiences, right? We're kind of sort of by definition storytellers and foolers, and we work in visual arts. And so I'm thinking to myself, how would I do this if we were filming it? How would I do this with special effects? And I ran out of all the explanations. And of course, the men that we were with had seen them multiple times, and they'd seen full Bigfoot. They live in harmony with these Bigfoot on the reservation. And so that's part of the reason why we were there. And so that was extraordinary. And then, we've certainly heard odd sounds. We've heard the wood knocks, which I'm starting to believe are not wood knocks. I'm starting to believe that they're knocking with their tongues. That could be some of the explanation. They certainly could be hitting trees, but I feel like that's kind of a rudimentary, more of an ape-like behavior, and these things don't typically behave in an ape-like behavior. So, they could be making a variety of noises, but, some of the natives that we've spoken to have told us that it's with their tongue. And when you multiply a human being by 3 or 4 times, that's going to be pretty doggone loud. So I've heard those things and have found a footprint, found a little mini structure there at the Almoon Lab that looked to me like it had been built by a juvenile. And it was one of those things where I kind of came around the corner. It was way down far from where the activity was taking place at the Almoon Lab. And it was in some brush, and it clearly, Tobe and Daryl had not seen it before. And it was small, but it was clearly in a kind of a pyramid shape, but with really small branches and stuff. So I figured that it was probably a juvenile that was learning how to make this structure or something like that. But that gave me, I'll never forget the chills coming through my body. And Jill and Mike, Tobe wasn't there at the time. Jill and Mike were up the hill, and I was like, you guys got to get down here now. And I'm filming it as I discovered it. So that was really cool.
Could I ask you a quick question about that? Now, I think I also know what's going through Nan's mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when we've been out in the forest, we're very careful with stick structures because they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look and go, that there's no purpose for a human to duck under a tree and build little ones, and then there was one in the middle. Was there one kind of larger stick in the middle of this?
Not in this scenario. They were leaning them up against, I think, a branch that was kind of going in this direction. So they were using that as kind of the, I don't know what you'd call it, Tobe. Like an an anchor point. Yeah, I guess that's probably the right word. But no, I didn't see one. I don't think in Utah, I've seen some, but I have to be honest with you. A lot of the structures that I've seen, and some of the ones that I've seen in Utah were elaborate. And my honesty is that sometimes I see these things and they just look too human-like. And other times it's like you get this feeling, you're like the one that I found, the Almoon Lab, looked to me a little bit more haphazard. It looked more like it was created by something other than a human. But some of them have, I don't know, they just have too much of a structure, if that makes sense. So I think you have to be very discerning on, and you can't just, you're exactly right though. Why would somebody spend this amount of time? And you're expelling a lot of energy, hauling logs and leaning them up against trees and stuff. So it's not like it's an easy thing. And when you're out in the wilderness, you've got better things to do than to just build these structures.
Yeah, definitely. And say, I think that's a topic that we'll move on to a little bit later, because I want to kind of go into the fact of, do you think Bigfoot built these, or and kind of why do they? But so a question for both yourself, Tobe, and Brett. So someone has put a question below. If you if you're able to answer that.
I mean, it's an awesome question. That's the whole thing about this, is that we don't even know the right questions to really ask, in my opinion. I don't think the questions are, do they leave footprints and do they have big bodies? I think that point we've established. The other questions like this is, I think this is a fascinating question, because these popping sounds, or these wood ethereal sounds, are enigmatic to the point where no one's seen them do anything to make these sounds. There's no video footage of them doing any of this. All we have is just kind of like our human brain imagining how it's done. And the trees are kind of like where my energy is being pointed right now, as being responsible for how Sasquatch maybe move between the two worlds that they exist in, right? Because I think they're a land spirit. I don't think they're just flesh and blood. I was talking to a friend of ours today, Sonia, and she was bringing up a Venn diagram point of, you know, the intersection between their world and our world, and wherever that circle intersects, they have to kind of abide by our physical parameters when that circle touches ours. But on these edges here of where the circles overlap, let's just imagine that these trees are a kind of antenna of sorts, because trees really are, right? They're a giant telluric antenna coming up out of the ground with root systems, which are wires pushing up energy out the top of them. I think it might be possible that something like this is happening with Bigfoot, to travel between these points of geology, including trees, rocks, land masses. They call this geomancing, where they utilize things like tree structures in order to, we talk a little bit about this in Expedition Bigfoot, right, with Dr. Maria. And so the point is that I think they're utilizing things like trees, and you hear these sounds. The consequence of entering the bark or the root of a tree as an energy source may sound a lot like a wood pop. That's kind of what I think is happening. If you can picture like breaking the sound barrier, but like as a supernatural paranormal energy source warping space and time. This is what I think is happening a lot of the time with Bigfoot.
Yeah, and I agree with that assessment too. I think, just to add on to that a little bit too, is I think that all of the above is certainly the case. I mean, look at the variations of other animals that are out there in the wild. They don't just squeak, you know, they do all kinds of different things. And Bigfoot is highly intelligent. One of the things that I keep circling back to is these things don't have cell phones. They can't send text messages. They can't call their buddies. And so therefore, in order to communicate across long distances, they're going to need to be as loud and as present as possible. And we already know, you know, through marine science, that whales can communicate over, believe it or not, thousands of miles. You know, a whale in the Gulf of Alaska can talk to another whale, you know, on the coast of California, and they've proven this. And so I would think that Bigfoot would come up with different ways of doing the exact same thing. And I've already been told by certain Bigfoot researchers is they tend to hang out in these kind of like, what are they called? They're like, not valleys, but you know, like ditches or something like that, to where they'll be in areas where they know that the sound is going to reverberate and carry more. And we have so many testimonials and so many different recordings of these really loud howls, but I believe that, you know, they're going to use different types of audio to send those messages.
And I love what you just did there, Brett, because that's something that I do. is when people ask me about kind of do they think Bigfoot cloaks, and do they think I relate it to animals that we have alive and proven today.
Mm-hmm.
So like orangutans, it's proven that they use tools to eat, and so I'm like, so is that out of the realm for Bigfoot to do that? In my opinion, no. And I always try and relate it to an animal that is alive today. And say, Tobe, I accidentally said Ronnie's name there, because I think that I've said that a few times to you, that you remind me of Ronnie.
Baby Ronnie.
So I'm now going to pass to Mr. Chris Alsford, who sat there very, very quietly.
Yeah. Well, I was a bit taken back by that question, and then I was taken back by the answer to it. So I've kind of mulling that over in my mind a bit, kind of, just. Yeah. So I do have a question then. Brett, you've said you grew up in Portland, Oregon, and you have the Mount Hood National Park there, which is a big hotspot. So were you growing up, you also said that you heard the stories. What sort of thing were you hearing when you were a child growing up? Because that was the time before mobile phones and cameras and the internet. I'm not going to go any deeper. I don't know exactly how old you are, but that's the time when you actually got word of mouth. I'm trying very hard not to be.
It's okay. I can take it, Chris.
Back before the written word and that sort of thing. Yeah. So, but that's before we had influencers and that type of thing. So you actually got stories that were genuine,
Yeah, I mean, when I came over to Oregon on the Oregon Trail back in the 1850s. No, I'm kidding. No, when I was a kid, I would hear the typical stories of someone saw Bigfoot crossing the road. Or someone heard a howl. I'm an avid snowboarder, and I've been snowboarding on Mount Hood for 32, 33 years. Just now you know how old I am. Since I was a kid, and you hear people talking about it. You hear somebody say, I heard so and so saw this, or so and so saw that. And there was a sighting on one of the major roads that leads to the ski resorts, and this is a very, very heavily traveled area. It's called Highway 26, and Highway 26 in the middle of the ski season, might have 7,000 cars a day on that route, maybe more. I may be totally underestimating that, but that's what I heard. Is I didn't hear anything. I certainly didn't hear anything about the paranormal side of things, and to be honest with you, it was only just within the last few years that I really started thinking that the paranormal side is indeed happening, because it just messes with your brain. And I get why people are flesh and blood, but I'm certain at this point, I'm certainly not. I believe that, like Tobe said, these are some sort of a land spirits. And in working on our third installment of A Flash of Beauty with the Natives, this is all being confirmed. I mean, not that it needed to be confirmed prior, and I'm not trying to go on a tangent, but to get back to your question, Chris.
We always do, my friend.
Yeah. It's all open for discussion.
And say, I don't think, and Chris and Dan, you can back me up on this, that every time I've come on a podcast, it's never followed the thing that I planned it to follow. And it's always gone down other side roads, and we went on to Spielberg, then we went on to E.T., and now we're going on paranormal. So yes, it's and to possibly add to that, Brett, is so there are loads of people out there that believe Bigfoot is real and don't believe Bigfoot is real. Like here in the UK, if you walk out on the streets and say Bigfoot's real, you'll get laughed at, and you will get laughed at hard. And Nan, Chris, am I right in saying that?
You mean just today or overall? I had it this morning, yeah.
where you could walk into town and you wouldn't be accepted. Where when came over to the US, it was very, very different. And I know that you guys have a very, very different world over there, where you guys will accept Bigfoot whatever. So I think where the paranormals come round a bit is because people have possibly become a little bit more accepting of what there could be out there. And say it's like 15 years ago, before I was born, Nan, be the answer to this, was Bigfoot a thing? What in the UK? Was it even mentioned?
No, it wasn't ever part of our childhood or growing up at all. No. I think the first most of us had ever heard about it was from the television, can't remember which one comes first, Expedition Bigfoot, Finding
Expedition Bigfoot.
Yeah, I get them the wrong way around. I think that was the first time, and even then it was a bit like bit far-fetched in a lot of our opinions. I mean, I'm sure you know Daniel's story. That's how he got interested in it.
Until I pushed you down that rabbit hole. I literally pushed you down.
My husband, Adrian, like Daniel's granddad, was a big follower of that program, and that's how Daniel got interested in it. And then, of course, the more you find out, the more you realise. But no, it wasn't. And even now, we're doing these conventions, we're doing things, and friends of mine will just go, "Oh, is he still into that? Whatever it is, that monstery thing, Bigfooty thing. Does he still believe?" It's like, does he still believe in Santa Claus or fairies or whatever? They still can't see it as it's such a huge thing that so many people are involved in. And once you get into it, it's so obvious and so normal that you're doing it. But there's still a huge thing here in the UK.
Yeah.
That's just made up. We
are, before you speak, Chris, we are gently building that community. And I can definitely say, Tobe, with you, I was on the phone to Chris, and Chris, I went, right, we need someone else from Expedition Bigfoot, and who could it be? I went, they've just brought a new guy on called Tobe Johnson, and Chris went, oh really? And I went, I'll see if I can find his contact. Within 2 minutes, I found you on Facebook. I went, right, I'm messaging him and I will ring him as soon as possible. And that evening, we spoke. And that's where that's where, Brett, you'll get to know me a little bit more. You already have, where that's where my Expedition Bigfoot kind of came in. And I will always follow that because it's started me off. But that's where we're only starting to make that dent in the UK.
Just making the way in, isn't it? Now, gradually, person by person is gradually getting more interested in it.
Right, I'm so sorry, Chris, but you had your hand up and then I interrupted you. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, what are you talking about, Santa Claus? What?
We know that he's real.
Well, yeah.
Who brings my presents?
Yeah.
Duh.
So you get presents?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure your wife is kind enough to do that, Chris.
She's not big and fat and bearded.
That's a start.
No.
Quite the opposite.
We can edit that remark.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
No, I do have a question about the documentaries, A Flash of Beauty, which you said the third part is under. Well, it's finished. It's due for release, or
No, I wish. No, we are literally just getting started with it. We've just been to Alaska. We were in Alaska a month ago, and that was the beginning of the filming. Which I just want to say real quick, Daniel, you said that in England, in the UK, everybody laughs when you say, "Do you believe in Bigfoot?" we were in a village in Alaska, Nunwalek, where people would laugh if you say, "I don't believe in Bigfoot."
Oh yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
So
That's a
they
great
know.
comeback to people that are saying, "Oh, that's silly. It doesn't
Yeah.
exist." I'll remember.
Everyone in the town has had an experience. But yeah, so Chris, we're just getting started on Flash Beauty 3. We don't even have a proper title for it yet. And we will be doing some more filming here at the end of the month on the Yakima Reservation in the state of Washington, and in Oklahoma in November, and then on the East Coast as well. We've pretty much we're trying to cover every region of the United States. Obviously, we would like to get up to Canada, but we're not sure if we're going to have the budget to do that. So it's well underway.
So who came up with the name of Flash of Beauty?
A gentleman by the name of Stan Avery. So Stan is in our first documentary, and Stan is the keeper of all Bigfoot stories in the little town of Bandon, Oregon. And Stan says during his interview, he says, "You see them, and in a flash of beauty, they are gone." And there was something about that resonated with us. We thought, you know what, this is so much more than a nefarious being in the wilderness. It's so much more complicated than that. These aren't monsters. And so many of the sightings out there that occur to people are these flashes of beauty, and just like Tobe brought up earlier, Harold and Cody had a flash of beauty. Literally, the thing flashed and flew away, But I mean, are they always flashes of beauty? No, they're not. We need to be honest about that. But for the most part, they are, and they can be, and they open a door into a whole nother realm for the lucky individual. Sometimes they're lucky to experience these things.
Wow.
Yeah, it is
fun. Brett and Tobe, question from Todd.
Hey Todd, how's it going? Will Flash Beauty go to Colville? I'll get back to you on that, Todd. As of right now, I don't believe we have plans. Jill might have other ideas, but we will be in Oklahoma, so I can tell you that at some point, and Missouri and Iowa, as a matter of fact, in November. So we're trying to cover as much ground as we can.
And I will pop in at some point. You mentioned at the very beginning that you'd come to the UK a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Why haven't you done one in the UK?
Time, basically. We're working on 2 Bigfoot documentaries right now. So the other one is about the Sierra Sounds.
Nice.
But I'd love to do a documentary in the UK on Bigfoot. And I have a friend in Japan who they've got their own kind of Bigfoot thing going on over there. And he's like, "When are you coming?" I got a message from him this morning at 2:42 a.m. "When are you coming to Japan to do your documentary?" They're not Bigfoots, but there's something else. So I'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
Well, maybe can Nan and Chris, there may need to be some convincing there when they come over. And also, Brett, I think you may recognize this person in the chat. I possibly. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. See, Jill's on top of it.
So guys, I look at the time and we've been 50 minutes already. That time has absolutely flown by, honestly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move on to my last question. Then I think we have something that we need to talk about at the end. Do you think, Brett, or not?
So I'm going to leave it up to you.
Okay.
You are the man. You are in charge.
So my final question for you, Brett and Tobe, but me and you, Brett, had a chat a couple of days ago, and you told me about hair samples. And are you good with me going into the story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You told me a story about a hair in an envelope, and I will leave that to you because I know that both Chris and Nan will find this interesting. Now I'll move to Tobe to talk about some hair samples as well.
Okay, so Tobe, I don't know if you know the story or not, but Jill certainly knows it. So Daryl Adams came down to Beachfoot, Tobe, and he brought us a hair sample from the knees, from the famous knees. And he had it in a white envelope. And you've got some in a white envelope. And we had a friend came over, and we went to go show the Bigfoot hair in the white envelope. And we opened up the white envelope, and the Bigfoot hair was not in the white envelope. Like, literally, we're showing it. I think Jill might have to jump in here real quick. I think we were showing it to her daughter. And we're like, where's the hair? What is going on? And we're like shining a flashlight. I mean, we're looking in this thing, and there is no hair. And so we're like, okay, that's weird. It must have somehow gotten out. Well, after they left, Jill and I were like, this is the weirdest thing ever. So we went back, we opened the envelope, and the hair was there. Plain as day. Jill, am I missing anything? You can add something in the comment. But I don't know. And I know I saw Todd Gatewood added a little bit of context to that too in the chat about how there's no core in them. And Tobe, you can elaborate on this a little bit more too. Oh, there you go. You're showing it to comedian Steve. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that same phenomena has happened with me and those hairs too. I kept mine in a little glass vial, with a little cork on top of it, like you'd keep on a cabinet. And it's clear all the way around it. And it's a black hair, they're not big. They look like guard hairs. They look human-like, really, but they look like a leg hair or something like that. But black with your eye, orange when you put a microscope underneath them, Irish setter red to be exact, and not visible, totally disappeared in the little glass jar, and then reappeared, I don't know, next time I looked. So I was just kind of sure that I had missed it somehow. This is, even though you experience the phenomena, and that's what Flash of Beauty, especially part 2 is how the phenomena changes you. Your rational mind constantly filters in and spoils the good time with these rational thoughts that says, oh, I must have not looked close enough. But I'd never heard that story, Brett. That makes me feel less great.
Yeah, I completely forgot about your glass vial.
Yeah.
Because I was there when that happened.
Yeah.
And I'd completely forgotten about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Nan and Chris, this is why it's going to work in May. We need these two together. Right. Before I move on to that point.
It's a really good idea. Yeah.
Before I move, shut up, Chris. Before I move on to that, Nan and Chris, what's your opinion on that? Because I was shocked when Brett told me that story.
Oh yeah, I can't see a rational explanation for it at all. No.
So I've always had this theory that the possibility that Bigfoot, being a mammal, can in the forests secrete oil which reflects light, and if he stood next to a green bush, it will reflect green light. And it's like been my, and no scientist, but it's been my theory that he doesn't cloak, he just blends in a lot better with his environment, and we don't work that out. But that doesn't really fit in with what the two experiences you both had. That's yours disappeared. That didn't change color to match the envelope. It was gone.
I'm going to be very open, and I always am on a podcast where I'm not in the paranormal world. Gotta say, due to NDAs, I can't say it, but I'm pushing in that way.
Come with us, Daniel.
And
you might need a passport, but we'll get you there.
Yeah.
Unlike you, Tobe, I think I do have a passport.
Wait, look at this, Daniel. Just came in via FedEx. I just got it. It's smaller than normal. I'll keep it here. And And now I can get in anywhere.
And say, and Nan, you'll agree with me on this, that both me and Nan, we aren't in the paranormal world at the moment. We are very much in the flesh and blood, but we are open to it all. And some things we can't explain at all. And say what has happened, it's out of my realm to explain. And even Chris can agree with that. That I can't explain it. I will stop before I say anything else because otherwise I would look really bad. I'm going to move on to the final topic now. Now I know that Brett is very looking forward to this, and so am I. Me and Nan mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, next year we are doing the third annual Cryptid Conference next year on May 31st. And we have some amazing guests coming. Now I'm gonna say we have 30 guests attending next year's event, which sends a massive shiver down my spine, and it almost makes just want Nan just goes, do you know what? I just want to collapse and just not do anything.
It just makes me want to curl up in a corner and cry quietly.
Yeah.
We get it.
Organize all of that.
Yeah.
So we have turned a one-day conference into a 3-day event where you can buy our VIP package, and we've put more on thanks to Brett and Jill joining us, where you guys can come and enjoy a full weekend, Friday evening, all the way till Sunday evening of Bigfoot fun. Now, the Friday evening, Brett is luckily enough, and I will put this all to him, Brett and Jill will be hosting the Friday evening VIP event. So, if you guys have bought the VIP package, you will have the lovely Brett and Jill who will be talking to you about A Flash of Beauty, and then I can't wait for this, Brett. I announced virtually. We then have Tobe Johnson coming on, and Tobe, how do you feel about that, bud?
I like it. I mean, we could start with a hologram, and then I'll walk out of the hologram. Something like that.
I think we need George Lucas from Star Wars to do that, Tony.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure that would work. Now, to everyone out there, myself and Brett are kind of teaming up to try and get Tobe over to the UK next year. Whether that is pan out, it will pan out. We will get Tobe over there next year. Where Tobe will be able to actually shake your hand in person. What do you think that's about right, Brett?
I think so. And Tobe secretly wants to go all the way up to Loch Ness and look for the monster there too. So the only way he's going to be able to do that is if we get him on the island, right?
No, I think this is awesome to feel so wanted by the Brits. I've never been wanted by the Brits ever. This is amazing for me.
Oh yeah.
And Jill, to be honest, I will completely agree with you on this comment. We'll fit Tobe into a suitcase and get him over there.
You're right. Just like Jimmy Stewart did with the finger.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Jill, if you could possibly do that live video on Facebook, that would be amazing. When you're getting Tobe into the suitcase, that would be amazing. But we are looking to try and get Tobe over there next year, and we are lucky enough to have Brett and Jill coming as well. Now, Brett and Jill will be doing something on the Friday, on the Saturday, and on the Sunday. On the Saturday, I'm not going to announce that yet. But on the Sunday, during another VIP event we have, Brett and Jill will be giving their talks. So if you want to go and see their talk, then you will have to get the VIP package to listen and hear about some of their amazing journeys and experiences that they've had. And then obviously we have the Friday VIP event, and then we will announce something on the Saturday, where you don't have to be a VIP, but you can do something with them. I'm not going to go any further than that. But yeah, Tobe, how do you feel about coming over to the UK?
Well, I'm gonna, practice my flexibility here because I know that those size of those onboard bags is pretty small. So I will get there. I will find a way to do it. Rest assured.
Brett, how do you feel about coming back to the UK?
Oh man, I can't wait. Like I said, that and I have an addiction to Lucozade. I'm not gonna lie. Every time I come over to the UK, I buy these things, and I don't love the taste of orange Lucozade. So there you go.
I will make sure we will have one there for you. Nan, can you put that on the list, please? And Chris,
on the
Orange.
Forever growing, expanding list. We will put that.
Yeah,
on.
yeah. It's okay.
Right.
It's okay, Jill. It's okay. I can provide myself with those. But no, the UK is, like I said before, I can't say enough great things about it. I love every part of it. I've been to every nation in the UK, even Northern Ireland, as a matter of fact. So the whole 9 yards. So I'm very excited. We are very excited.
Daniel, real quick, there is something to be said about the history of the Green Men as it relates to the cathedrals and churches around the European structures and Bigfoot. Like, I'm extremely interested in where this story maybe originated from, which may not be the Americas at all. I feel like it goes way back into Norse mythology, pagan mythology.
To be completely honest, Tobe,
yeah.
What now depend, and I've always said this to Brett, is depending on when you fly in, we have somewhere very near to where we live, called a place called Glastonbury.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever heard of Glastonbury Festival?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always wanted to go.
Yeah.
Although it looks very muddy.
That's our VIP right there, right? We're going to Glastonbury.
Yeah. Glastonbury. Are you kidding? Yeah.
We so in Glastonbury there are Green Man shops. No kidding.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Now I live in Bridgewater, which is not far from Glastonbury, and I've only
20
been
minutes and that.
a couple of times. And so we kind of we go there sometimes, but we went when we had Ryan, Ronnie, and Renee over. We went into some of the shops, and there's even like a Green Band. What would you call it, man? On the wall. On the wall.
Yeah.
Like a
Mural.
Yeah, Chris, that word. Yeah.
Mural.
Yeah.
Mural.
Yeah. So and kind of so yeah. If we have time, we will take you there if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to everyone out there, that next year is going to be a remarkable conference, and say we are actually still securing some guests, some that even Tobe doesn't know about yet, but he will do straight after this podcast. And we are just really looking forward to next year, and I'm shivering a bit and. Just that's like
you get a bit twitchy,
yeah. And say I think about a week before the event, you want to stay about 5 meters away from me and Dan, because you don't want to be near us when we're trying to sort some stuff out. When things go wrong, guys, you want to back off from me, because I will not cope at all. So Tobe, you better get here. So get that passport. Just book it now. Press the button now. Guys, it has been an amazing podcast having you guys on here. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Daniel. Really appreciate it.
Everybody.
Yeah.
A real pleasure.
Chris, Dan, thank you for what you do.
Very much.
No, pleasure.
And say, Brett, can't wait to talk Steven Spielberg, and I'm sure Dad can't either, and Tobe can't wait to kind of talk to you about Green Man and take you to Glastonbury Festival without Brett.
Oh no.
Wicked.
So to everyone out there, thank you so much for watching for this podcast. If you're watching this on record, please leave us a like and subscribe, and go and visit Tobe and Brett and go and watch their stuff. I can guarantee it is amazing. So, Nan and Chris, is there any last words that you would like to say?
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nothing else on the question. Yeah, just thank you very much. I'm sure we could talk all night if we had the time.
Yeah, it's getting late for
Thank
you guys. That's true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Right, to everyone out there, keep searching, stay mythical, and stay safe out there, guys. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Mythical Legends podcast. For more information, check out our Facebook group. The truth is out there. Thank you for listening to the Mythical Legends podcast. For more information, check out our Facebook